And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio and ESPN
We get the people what they want.
By this time of the day, you all know that the Kyrie Irving trade happened. We all knew it was going to happen before it happened, so we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about that later. We are going to start with a very interesting story from the National Basketball Association. The Los Angeles Lakers were fined by the league for tampering. $500,000. This stems from Magic Johnson's comments and specifically GM Rob Pelinka having some discussions with Paul George's agent. Jalen Rose, my question for you is, we know that Magic Johnson is having a month-long yachting vacation around the Mediterranean. How concerned about this do you think he is right now?
My childhood idol, Magic Johnson, the Hall of Fame mogul. My good friend and former teammate, Rob Pelinka. Hey, Adam Silver, if you're only going to fine people $500,000 for tampering, it's going to continue to happen throughout the league.
It's not going to get it done. Magic Johnson's spending $500,000 a week on his yacht in the Mediterranean. He is not concerned about this fine.
It's one of those things that I definitely feel like the punishment does not fit the crime. If this is something that you're staunch about, you want to bring a halt to, and that you take very serious, because other people are on the sideline looking at how this is being handled on each level: ownership, front office, coaches, players, agents, and they're like, they just got a slap on the wrist.
It's also one of those things, it's like white-collar crime, insider trading, and people that invest in the stock market that have money, not like me. It's like, how do you really know exactly what was said to whom and when and about whom? Like, you can always just kind of like creep your way around it, which is why I think the fine is kind of little, because they can't truly pinpoint exactly who's guilty of what in this scenario. Do you agree?
Well, Magic was on Kimmel. He was pretty direct.
But that is not tampering. That is just him speaking on Kimmel. It's truly Rob Pelinka contacting his agent and sort of establishing the intent of Paul George to go to the Lakers.
Well, it's unique because it's Magic, so you can say it's not tampering. But if you want to put the label and position that he holds with the team, that's not something that you want somebody that's holding that position for a team saying on television, on national television, about a player that's contractually obligated to another squad.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, come on, Magic. Like, now you're going to make us do this. And the Pacers are the ones that initiated the investigation. Is this petty on the Pacers' point?
Of course not. They had an all-NBA caliber performer, an all-star player, a face of the franchise guy. Their best player probably since they had Reggie Miller on the roster.
Besides from Lance Stevenson.
Of course, you're going to take it some type of way. When he shows up, you clearly think this is happening, and then all of a sudden he says, I want to go to L.A. And you're like, wait a minute, you're still under contract.
Yeah, it's like you're still playing for us. But at the same time, if he wants to go to L.A., whether or not he has spoken to Rob Pelinka about that doesn't change the fact that he wants to go to L.A. It just sort of seems like the Pacers just kind of being like, you know what? I'm going to tell the league about them, and I'm going to make sure that they get fined because they're in trouble.
Well, it should. If you're going to attach two things together, tampering and a fine, that means you feel like something took place. So if something took place and he turned around and signs with them at the end of this year, oh, that's a discount. That's not a punishment.
It's like all it cost us was $500,000 to get this guy to the team. Like that's well worth it. They should I would have paid $10 million for that. Do you think that maybe Pelinka or Johnson have spoken to other players on other teams about potentially coming to the Lakers?
It's not just them. That's where I have to put a fork in the road.
Okay.
I talk a lot about wink-wink deals happening on this program for years. I'm pretty sure you've seen other people on other programs take the baton, like Usain Bolt, and run with that, but you heard that here first. And what ends up happening is, yes, these conversations take place because all of the levels I just described, usually they're not only talking about one player or one situation. There are personal relationships and friendships and kinships that go with those conversations, those meetings, those gatherings, those dinners. So therefore, as you mentioned, you can't truly pinpoint what was said when.
Do you think Magic Johnson was on the jet ski and took out his phone while he was in, the coast of Italy or whatever, and texted Jeannie Buss and was just like, "Don't worry, Jeannie, I got that $500,000. Don't. You know what? I'll pick up this one. You pick up the next one."
No, he did one better. He looked down, saw the headline. He wanted to make sure he read it right.
Put the phone back in his pocket.
Then he scrolled down and saw how much. He's like, "I'll deal with that when I get off the water."
I'm not worried about this right now. I got this jet ski to work. When this thing runs out of gas, we can address that. But semi-seriously, I know that you know what really goes on behind closed doors. So take us behind the curtain. How often do these type of conversations happen between front office members and executives and agents that are quote-unquote tampering that never get reported?
We broke this down on this fine program a handful of years ago. And I really talked about the dynamic of the league that people really don't pay attention to is the starter level players, usually on down to your all-star level players, your superstar players, are truly represented by five total agents. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to make 60%, 70% of the league only be represented by a handful of guys, they're calling the team about multiple things. They're meeting with the franchise about several different situations that may be taking place, pushing favors, pulling favors, and like in entertainment, everybody press pause for a second that has ever had a manager or an agent. Just think about this. The most important conversations that happen about your career and your money, you're not on the phone. You're getting that transcribed to you, what took place. And a lot of times you hope that the favor that's being sacrificed isn't on your backside. But usually, as those relationships continue to foster, it becomes a part of the game, so you learn not to take it personal.
And you know that at some point Magic was like, "Rob, why'd you have to call?"
One of the more startling things as an athlete and as an entertainer, anybody that has had a manager or an agent, just think about this for a second. The most important conversations about your career, your well-being, and your money, you're not on the phone. You're actually getting a Cliff Note version of that conversation, which works both ways.
That doesn't make me happy. It feels like it works against me. While Magic Johnson has been enjoying his summer just on the yacht with him and Sam Jackson hanging out in the Mediterranean, seems like Kevin Durant is really enjoying his championship summer as well. Popping up on the Podfathers podcast seems like every 4 days. He's been answering to every Twitter question that he gets. He's just been everywhere. And he showed up on Complex's hit show, Hot Ones. See, Jalen, I know you're a lemon pepper guy. We get wings together a lot. You're not really I'm a hot wing guy. You're more of a lemon pepper guy. Could you have made it through the Hot Wings Challenge?
Absolutely not. Just like when we tried to do a cinnamon challenge on our show, the first thing I said was, not going to be able to do it. Because here's what I learned about myself. There are levels to my hot intake.
Okay.
So I could do the Better Made barbecue chips and or popcorn. I could do the red hot sauce on basically anything. I don't know if that's cultural or not. But the Tabasco, that's out of my league.
I do kind of feel like he showed up to the shoot and was like, "Oh, I didn't know this was what we were doing. I thought we were just going to eat wings and talk about my career." He's like, "I didn't know this was going to be a challenge." I loved how he reacted to that final one with the sweat pouring down his neck. It just seemed like torture. I'm not going on that show. I'm not going to be asked, but I'm definitely not going on that show.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
We all knew it was going to happen once Dickie V tweeted yesterday. We all knew once Dickie V tweets it, it's as good as done. Yep. And it happened. Kyrie Irving is now on the Boston Celtics. He's been traded to the Cavs for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, the Brooklyn pick next year, and they just added a little sauce on top. They put a little sprinkle of a second rounder in 2020 on top to appease the Cavaliers and get the trade done. Jalen, does this mean we can finally stop talking about this every day?
I think we're going to talk about it because it's a lot to unpack. And the two main things that I want everyone to take from this trade is that, one, Kyrie Irving at 25 years old, 3 straight NBA finals, plus an NBA championship, and during that game 7, made the closeout jumper on the right wing over Steph Curry. Said that he wanted to be traded from that basketball team.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And he got traded to a number 1 seed.
Well, let's listen to him talk about being traded to this basketball team, because I think it gives some insight as to what you're getting at.
There are no other ulterior reasons other than being happy and wanting to be somewhere where you feel like it's an environment that's conducive for you maximizing your potential as a human being and as a player perfecting their craft.
Jalen Rose, take us behind the curtain. What does he mean?
Key buzzwords: happy, feel, and maximize.
Explain, because it's impossible not to read into this and think that he's somewhat speaking about how he didn't have those things in his previous position.
Well, the first two are emotions that usually add up to the third thing: maximize. That's his potential on and off the floor, his appreciation as a basketball player, and frankly, being able to control his own destiny before LeBron James controls it at the end of this year.
Oh, what I hear is LeBron was holding me back. That's what I hear. LeBron was holding me back. LeBron was holding me back. He wouldn't let me be a leader in the locker room. It was all about him all the time. And he was always had the ball, and I was the point guard, and he wasn't allowing me to maximize my potential. Do I agree with that? Nah, sorta. But do you agree with me that that is exactly what he is saying?
That is what he's saying. He has the right to say it. And now the great thing about sports has the opportunity to show and prove. And to take it a step further, against the team that traded him and drafted him number 1 overall in the regular season, plus in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Exactly.
So
we all know this is going to be the Eastern Conference
stage,
Finals. We all know this is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's going to be so good.
The second thing, as Kyrie went on to average his 25 points and his 5 assists. By the way, the first guy in NBA history with numbers like that not to lead his team in scoring or assists that year, to go with your point. To be traded for Isaiah Thomas, who averaged more points, but clearly he didn't play with LeBron James.
No.
And more assists because he had the ball more, was a really productive player and showed that he has what it takes to be a perennial all-star. The other thing I want people to take from this deal is that the Boston Celtics looked at Isaiah Thomas and said, we don't want to pay you the max.
And another thing I want to just point out is don't sleep on Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder can play defense. They need someone to spell LeBron's minutes. And another thing he can do that LeBron loves is shoot. And you can put him into a lineup if it pushes LeBron up to that 4 position. So you got either Tristan or Kevin, and then you got LeBron, and then you got Jay Crowder, and then their backcourt. Like, it does give them more flexibility for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Are you talking about the level of flexibility that, unfortunately for LeBron, the last couple of NBA finals where his team came up short, the unique thing that took place was that Kawhi Leonard, Andre Iguodala, and Kevin Durant were all playing one-on-one at the 3 spot against LeBron James.
Exactly what I'm talking about. And LeBron James can get a little bit of a rest on defense, because when you're covering KD, it's going to fatigue you, whether or not you admit it or not. Whether or not LeBron admitted it, and he would never, ever cop to it, but anyone who watched every finals game last year noticed that there was a different LeBron James toward the end of the game than there was at the beginning of the game. The numbers back it up, but more importantly, the eye test backs that up.
And that's okay. I mean, he's in his 14th season. he averaged more rebounds and assists than at any point in his career. Help! I need somebody. Because on the defensive end, on the wing, he was on this Chris Tucker like, if I could be where everybody wanted me to be, when everybody wanted me to be there, I'd be confused.
He was trying. He's like, I'm going to help this one, and I have to run back to my man, then have to close out on this shooter, and then have to get the rebound, and I have to score on Kevin Durant. Like, come on now. This I found really interesting. There was a report, The Ringer spoke to some executives, and one executive said that Dan Gilbert was running point on this, and that Dan Gilbert is actually the problem with what's happening in the Cavs organization. How much truth do you think there is to that?
Dan Gilbert's getting a bad rap here because, number one, I'm dismissing the unnamed source, number one.
Sure.
Two, you said a rival GM. That means he couldn't get the deal done himself.
Okay.
Three, this is a great deal for the Cleveland Cavaliers currently.
I like it for the Cavs.
And in the future. So if he runs running point, he got it done.
Jalen, there's also a report, and this is from Zach Lowe.
Get low. Get low.
He said that, again, I want to be very careful with the words here. He said there's a slight chance that Thomas could miss a lot of the regular season if his recovery does not proceed smoothly. Now, I don't want to get crazy with this. It's a small chance, if everything doesn't go right, that Isaiah Thomas will not join the Cavs until later on in the season than they expect right now. How much does that affect their title chances?
Well, have Dwayne Wade joined their roster yet?
I mean, basically, as far as Jalen and Jacoby are concerned, Dwayne Wade is on the Cavs, and he's just trying to deal with somebody to get his number back. That's probably what's happening.
We need to do a countdown for that, because all I know is during the NBA draft this year, this topic came up. Mm-hmm. And Rajon Rondo was also part of the conversation. When I saw the Bulls trade their pick for $3 million, I went on national television and was like, oh, okay. That's the money they're going to use to buy Rajon Rondo.
They're trying to get some money together so they can buy a Rondo. And then they got to do a little bit more fundraising to get the money to buy out Dwayne. But here's what's happening. And you know that Dwayne Wade's agent is like, oh, you got to pay me. You got to pay 100%. You got to pay 100%. And then you know that Gar Pax is sitting there being like, listen, we're not just going to give you $20 million so you can go compete for a championship in Cleveland. Like, that's not how it works. We know what you want. You know what I want. It's going to take a while to work this out, I feel like.
So basically, one of the hiccups for the deal actually being complete was that the Cleveland Cavaliers basically accused the Boston Celtics of not turning over all of the rehab information that Isaiah Thomas was able to do over the past couple of months.
There was conflicting reports about that, but yes, that was reported.
Well, let me tell you what's not a conflict. One of the teams got a second-round pick after the argument. Mm-hmm. Okay, so usually that was the team that was correct.
In 2020, like who knows where we're going to be in 2020, by the way.
And also, they, again, did a terrific job of parlaying an asset, Kyrie Irving, into up to 5 players. Which Isaiah Thomas is in the final year of his deal.
He was an MVP candidate last year. Like, not even considered to actually be the MVP, but he was in the top 6.
Absolutely. And so if you decide for whatever reason you don't want to sign him, Chris Paul's on a 1-year deal. He's the godfather of LeBron's kids and or vice versa.
You got Jay Crowder. You got Zizic. And what's going to be, I'm going to say, top 4 pick, maybe even the top pick.
And so with that, as long as he's ready by, say, All-Star break or towards the end of the season, it doesn't hamper the Cavs as much during the regular season. I do still think as long as he's able to compete, they win the East. But don't overlook the Celtics because they do have their backcourt of the future, getting Kyrie and Gordon Hayward from the Utah Jazz.
Well, there's something about winning the East in the regular season and then winning the Eastern Conference Finals because, you know, that can flop. That can flop. We've seen LeBron be number 2 in the East and still end up in the finals.
But I appreciate how Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens looked at a successful team and said, we can replace 4 out of 5 starters and still get better. That usually doesn't happen.
No one talks about Morris on the Celtics either.
Correct.
Like, somewhere Morris is like, can someone write about me? Or can someone talk about how I'm going to impact this team? It's all Hayward, Kyrie. They're clearly more productive players than Morris, but Morris is no slouch, and he does things that the Celtics need someone from the 4 position to do, like shoot.
And bring toughness, and it opens up a spot for Jaylen Brown and or Tatum to get minutes on the wing. Young players like Rozier, Smart get opportunities. So it kind of unlocks their roster of a team that's been building through the draft.
And you don't see a team in today's NBA with the mix of young people that are developing to turn into stars and legitimate stars at the same time. They've really done a good job at managing this roster. And also, they've got about 45 picks in the next 2 years. We spent a lot of time talking about the NBA in this program.
It was basketball season. Then it was the draft. Then there was free agency.
And then Kyrie Irving said he wanted to get traded. And then there was an update about that every single day. But you know what? Now it's time to turn our attention to the gridiron. As we are only days away from the beginning of the NFL season. And more importantly, days away from your fantasy drafts. You know, it's time to get ready. So we're going to take a little preview right now of the NFC East. We're going to start with the NFC East because it's easily the most talked about conference in all of the sport.
East Coast bias, plus the Dallas Cowboys reside there.
Yeah, the Cowboys are definitely what it is. The Cowboys are not just America's team. They're America's most talked about team and most dramatic team because it seems like there's always something going on with the Cowboys. So we will start with them. Last year, they were 13-3, first in the NFC East. They lost in the NFC divisional playoffs to the Packers in a fascinating contest. That was one of the best football games that I saw last year. And they were led by two rookies, a rookie quarterback who we all know about, Dak Prescott, and a rookie running back who we will start with, Ezekiel Elliott. One of the things that makes this year's Cowboys so difficult to understand and predict is there's some uncertainty as to Mr. Elliott's availability for the first 6 games. Our man, Adam Schefter, who I like to call Raekwon the Chef, and Jalen doesn't like it when I call him that.
Terrible nickname.
I love that nickname. I'm going to keep using it because I've got a microphone. He can't stop me. And he is saying that he thinks that the suspension will be reduced and also that the league is pressuring, not the league, they're under pressure to resolve this, to avoid some sort of federal court, drawn-out, Deflategate-esque appeal process. Obviously, Jalen and I do not know what happened between Ezekiel Elliott and his ex. Only the two of them do. And it seems that the appeal is basically focused on the league's investigation and the process at which they came to the number 6 games, not necessarily the details of the incidents between the two human beings. That being said, are you concerned about this Cowboys team based on all that information?
I am not. And I think the Cowboys actually covered themselves here because the story, and rightfully so, is about the alleged domestic violence that possibly took place on multiple occasions approximately a year ago. But the headline to which follows him being suspended is based on his conduct.
Yep.
And how they did that kind of gets overlooked in this dynamic because if you look back over the 12 months that Ezekiel Elliott left collegiate football,
had some incidents,
and he played one NFL season,
had some incidents.
He's been in the wrong place at the wrong time and or done the wrong thing multiple times.
A few times. Off the top of my head, in Seattle, he was just window shopping at a recreational marijuana store. He was just window shopping
on game day.
And then it was getting a little loose, celebrating Irish heritage, and may or may not have exposed the top of a young lady on a parade float. And most recently, he may or may not have allegedly, reportedly, perhaps punched a DJ at a nightclub.
So when you look at those incidents, that does, along with the domestic violence that was alleged, when you say 6 games and the NFL come out in their statement and they acknowledge that that was part of the punishment, they didn't necessarily acknowledge that that was the finality of it. So I think they covered themselves there, and they undo everything I said if they reduce the suspension.
Well, something tells me they will, because I feel like the NFL is motivated to make this go away, to stay away from a drawn-out court battle like they had with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Here's a question.
Who ended up winning that?
We all lost. Let's be honest. All of us lost because we talked about it for 2 years. That's what happened. We all lost there. Let me ask you this question, which is it's kind of salacious and headline grabby of me, but you know I like drama. Does Tony Romo ever get a call from Jerry Jones? Is he going to get a call in the next 6 months? Is he ever going to get a text? Is it ever going to be like, hey, Tony, you're doing a great job on media, but you know what? Dak twisted his ankle, and maybe we could use him use you on the team, mentoring.
Well, I know this. For a guy that, if you look at only who his predecessors were and how they were adored by Cowboy fans, the likes of great quarterbacks, Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. And I remember watching the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, and Danny White was under center, and they'd go up to the line of scrimmage, Blue 16! And then they'll stand up, look left, look right, and get back in their stands. That was cold. And then now Tony Romo seems to be discussed amongst Cowboy fans.
Of course.
Like he's in that class.
Oh, he's in that class. You don't have to win a Super Bowl. Don't do the ring thing, Jalen. You don't do the ring thing.
I don't need you to tell me how to break down Tony Romo because I never said anything about a ring.
Okay.
I never said nothing about nobody's rings because I know that those guys played a different era of football. Whereas when they got inside the 5 or the 10, it was 2 tight ends, it was a fullback, it was a running back, it was 3 downs in a cloud of dust. Now, first down, it's a spread offense and the quarterback in the shotgun. So, of course, the statistics are going to be comparable. But Tony Romo doubled down on that love when he saw Jerry Jones at the Hall of Fame say that, oh, he was the guy that didn't have as much help and not feel bad. So much so that the guy that formerly employed him and paid him multi-millions of dollars, he named his son after him.
And I also love when he was like, he's going to win a Super Bowl. Tony Romo is going to win a Super Bowl. Just maybe not with us. Maybe he'll be a coach or a consultant, or maybe like he'll be a media member that covers the team and ends up getting a ring like you can do. But some tells me that Tony Romo's Super Bowl chances are dwindling every single day.
But what gets lost beyond anything is you can look around the league. It happened to Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. The bottom line is he lost his job to a better football player named Dak Prescott.
That's what happens.
That doesn't get discussed enough.
Yeah, also a younger and much, much, much cheaper starting quarterback than Tony Romo. And Tony Romo looked at his options and was like, I don't want to play in the Broncos. I don't want to do that.
And so watching their defense last year, I was truly surprised at how well they were able to perform. I know the running game allowed them to be on the field less and play a lot faster. But when I see Rob Marinelli standing on the sideline, I get Detroit Lion flashbacks because he was our coach when we were 0-16.
They've got Scandrick, Sean Lee, especially when he's healthy, is everywhere on the field. And they got my guy, Taco Charlton. You know,
from
Michigan.
Yes,
Wolverines.
Indeed. And so what I'm paying attention to, as Ezekiel's also going to be suspended early in the year, I think Dez Bryant is going to have something to prove. I was disappointed that he had to come out and clarify and unclarify what he felt about the protest. If you don't want to contribute, don't contribute. But don't say I'm not doing it because I'm trying to get paid.
Here's the thing, and you're an athlete and I'm a fan and media member. Just don't do the feed my family thing. You know what I mean? Because you know what the people that hear that are doing? Working really hard to try to feed their family. They don't have the savings accounts that professional athletes do. And also, don't sleep on my man Jason Witten tearing it up in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, but he's still Jason Witten. We started talking about the NFC East earlier as we're going to preview some conferences in the NFL as we head into the season. And we ended up spending an entire segment talking about the Cowboys because that's kind of what the Cowboys do. They just take up all the air in the room. But we're going to move on, going from best to worst in the NFC East to the New York Giants. One of the most notable things that the Giants have done is lost Victor Cruz, picked up Brandon Marshall. What do you think about this move?
It's really going to help him in the red zone because Brandon Marshall is a large target. He's a seasoned veteran. while he doesn't run with the speedsters in the league, is going to provide a possession receiver that's not going to get the number one receiver type coverage. So I think he's going to be able to thrive in that scenario.
When you look at their wide receivers, you got Beckham, Shepard, and Marshall. Those are three legit threats.
Yes, they're going to be in the conversation potentially of a top trio in the game. But you did what most people do, and I was going to make sure I did the opposite.
What,
not
be
lead
really
with their
intelligent and
offense.
handsome? Oh, okay.
No, not lead with their offense. Because their offense is the headline. The story is their defense.
Okay.
Period.
JPP?
They allowed the second fewest points in the game. Landon Collins came out of nowhere. Reminds me of a modern-day Sean Taylor, also rocking number 21. Snacks Harrison on the line making plays. Jason Pierre-Paul in the three-point stance literally returned, played at an elite level. And Olivia Vernon, who a lot of people didn't realize how he was going to perform after getting a huge contract, came and lived up to the numbers that he got paid. So the Giants' defense is actually what was the driving force to a team that was 11-5 last year. The offense gets the headlines.
11-5. We all remember when they went to Green Bay for that wild card game. What happened, Mr. Rose? I forgot.
Well, the players were like, you know what? It'd be a good idea to fly to the fun.
Because we got a little time off. We just celebrate the end of the season. Let's take a breath and just enjoy ourselves.
Oh, and by the way, we can't kick it in New York City.
No, nothing to do there. You can't celebrate in New York.
Right.
No.
So we're going to fly to Miami, go to Live, kick it with whatever notable rappers that are available. Big shot, Trigger. And so, and then all of a sudden the next day, show up on the boat, wearing the same clothes from last night, some with shirts off, some with shirts around the waist. All of a sudden, now that dominated the headline. So how are you going to perform after doing that? You go to Green Bay. There's a reason you went from New York to Miami. You felt like it was too cold to kick it in New York, so you wanted to go to Miami and pee on South Beach. So now the next weekend you where? In Green Bay. So you want to show us, oh, it ain't no big deal to play outside in this weather, taking selfies on the field, doing all type of stuff with the shirts off. And then you know what happened when the game started? Started dropping footballs. Aaron Rodgers took over, and they lost that football game.
The Giants are a very unpredictable team.
Eli Manning leads that charge.
Just
he
very
can lead the league in
unpredictable
interceptions
team.
Really fast.
Entertaining to watch, though, especially Odell Beckham Jr. We're moving on to the third-place team in the NFC East last year. 8-7-1 with a tie is the Washington Professional Football Team. It seems like this team, all anyone talks about is Kirk Cousins. Why is that?
Because he's the first quarterback to play under a franchise tag for multiple years.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like playing under a franchise tag as a quarterback is that bad a deal. He's getting $21 million. It's not that bad a deal.
And it increases every year. When I saw Matt Stafford get his contract and I saw Kirk Cousins was second, I'm like, oh, he's going to franchise forever.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, look, we all understand the non-guaranteed. You want a long-term deal. You want guaranteed money, especially a sport where you can get injured and stuff like that. But, like, it's not that bad a deal for Kirk Cousins, and the advanced numbers on Kirk Cousins are very good. Their offense wasn't bad last year. They were third in the league in yards per game, second in the league in passing yards per game. But one thing that tells you is they were behind. You know, as if you don't want to be second in the league in passing yards per game. That's sort of a misleading stat.
And I love to turn people on to the gems. So I'm going to give you one right now.
I'm listening.
Okay. I saw this guy up close and personal on the wrong side of the football field too many years in college. Terrell Pryor. I was talking about him last year. Swiss Army knife in Cleveland. Nobody was watching. He was taking snaps. He was running the football. He was catching passes.
Yeah, returning punts.
He was doing everything. He's going to be explosive this year.
Mm-hmm.
Under the offensive premise that you just described and how Jay Gruden continues to get this team to move the football up and down the field. I'm a Josh Norman fan, a lockdown corner. I love the way he plays with an edge. It seemed like Carolina really missed it once he left. That's going to be a key also.
They are losing Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. That is a concern.
Well, they lose Deshaun's speed, and they're going to lose Garçon's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But I just gave you the guy that's bringing the talent.
So you think that Pryor can make up for that?
I do. I think he will. And I'm giving that as a gem because he gets to play with Jordan Reed, one of the best tight ends in the league. I assume he's going to be healthy. So the Washington football team, while they lost those names, and I don't think they're going to be as good as the first two teams that we mentioned, or even Philadelphia, who we haven't talked about, I don't think it's going to be necessarily because of their quarterback play.
There's also one more name they need to lose. The name of the football team. Like, let's be honest. It's going to happen inevitably. It's going to happen, so just embrace the future and have it happen now. And finally, I apologize to all Philadelphia fans. I love the city of Philadelphia. I love the city of Philadelphia. I love going to the field. The Fly Eagles fly.
No doubt.
I have some Eagle fan friends. But
what
you
up,
guys,
though, Beanie Siegel?
They were 7-9 last year. Last in the NFC. And I do not think that is going to change this year.
I don't. And Carson Wentz. Now, when he has a really good season this year, I don't think he's going to buy the weaponry for his offensive line that he chose to buy them last year.
Okay.
Because that became something of a topic that he didn't want to deal with, I'm sure, when he saw the backlash to come with it. Zach Ertz is a terrific tight end. But the thing I've always liked about the last couple of years that it seems the Eagles have done is they keep some running backs. It's like other teams look at them like, can we get a running back? They kept Darren Sproles. And then now all of a sudden you add LeGarrette Blount from the Patriots.
And LeGarrette Blount's not going to break the record for yards gained, but if it is, I don't know, 2nd and 2 from the 2, he'll get you in the end zone.
Well, you run him over Jason Peters all day. That's what you do, who has one of the best beards in professional sports.
What about Alshon Jeffrey, the addition of him? Do you think he can make a difference for Wentz?
I do. As a playmaking receiver who can really perform inside and outside of the numbers. Then you have Torrey Smith, who can take the top off of the defense. I would not be surprised if Philadelphia, depending on their defense.
Say it. You're going to say something crazy, I can tell.
My little brother, Brandon Graham, in the defense. I would not be surprised if they're as close to winning this division as the Dallas Cowboys and or the Giants, and it's not being discussed at this point of the season.
That sounds like someone on August 31st. Because when it comes to October 31st around Halloween, I don't think the Eagles will still be in the conversation. I also don't think that we'll remember to check in on it either. That's just how we do on this show.
Each team has dealt with, in this division, has dealt with notable injuries and or suspensions. And so that's going to affect the dynamic of how it plays out also.
Jalen Rose, I have conflicted feelings about this player, but he's still very close to my heart. This gentleman who goes by the name Lance Stevenson, also known as Born Ready.
The 8th grader.
He has released a new track. And we're going to listen to some of it right now.
This is a hit. This is a hit. Better believe it. Already click. Already click. Better believe it. I might take a chick. Better believe it. She hop in the whip.
So Jalen Rose,
I go hard. Better believe it.
he started this by saying this is a hit. You can't really tell from the voice because he's got the auto-tune on extra. But that's Lance Stevenson. Do you believe this is a hit?
Well, a couple of things.
Okay, number one.
There's multiple different ways that move the crowd. And this type of rap music, the sound, the tempo, the content, because he's not spitting a verse or truly giving lyrics, he's saying words. You could name 100 rappers that he actually sounds like.
And they all sound alike because this could be my son Quincy, who's 4 years old. You can just put him through the filter and he sounds like this.
But with that being said, I'm not going to download it.
I'm not going to download it either. And Lance is one of my favorite players. But you know what? One thing my mentor taught me. big shout out to John Hawk, one of my many mentors.
Shout out.
Is if you have done something, that is an accomplishment. You know what I mean? The quality, we can analyze quality later, but he decided he's going to go into the booth, he's going to spend 6 hours, he's going to spend the money, he's going to record a song, and that's exactly what he did. It's just
Go hard.
It's just not that good of a song.
This is a hit.
Keep going.
I'm not buying that.
Jalen Rose, you have led the charge on this. The Harriet Tubman $20 bill. Everyone remembers when it was announced, and everyone forgot where it went, except people that listen to this program, because you have been the number one person constantly reminding America as to the whereabouts and the question marks surrounding the Harriet Tubman $20 bill. Well, someone who clearly listens to this program asked the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, about the status of the Harriet Tubman $20 bill. He explained that they only change dollar bills when there are concerns about counterfeiting. He doesn't seem that concerned about that right now because he said, quote, right now we have a lot more important issues to focus on. Jalen Rose, how disappointed are you about the current status of the Harriet Tubman $20 bill?
Here we go again. The reason why I'm so disappointed, well, there are multiple reasons.
I'm sure.
I figured once our commander in tweets got in office and 45 and his constituents looked down at the ledger and saw Harriet Tubman's name on there.
Little reprioritization?
Absolutely, especially if he didn't know if Frederick Douglass was alive or dead. I truly knew that this legislation may be in deep trouble.
Delayed.
That's why I kept carrying the torch to try to keep hope alive.
They put out the torch.
I'm still going to do that because he did use the term might, and that's how I'm going to interpret that. But they need to make sure that those Harriet Tubman 20s happen, and I got something else that needs to happen.
One thing I just want to say.
Make Barack Obama on the $5 bill.
One thing I want to say is, Jalen, don't take this information and then start counterfeiting $20 bills. That's bad. That's a bad decision. I know that might solve your problem, but that would be a bad solution. Just letting you know. I'm also conflicted about this next news item, Jalen Rose. There are two things that are sort of tenets of our philosophy here on this program. Number one, bad idea for athletes to date Kardashians. Number two, we always support power couples.
Oh,
there is now a report that there was a dinner between one couple, or alleged maybe kind of dating couple, Blake Griffin and Kendall Jenner, joining Chandler Parsons and Haley Baldwin at dinner. Are you as conflicted I am about whether or not to support these power couples?
I'm not mad at anybody being happy, and yes, we support power couples.
Good. Me too.
Even we have to bend the rules of the VIP list for this one. But one thing that can't get overlooked.
What's that?
The Kardashian and Jenner curse is real. So you still have to say, run!
It's always. You know what? This is what we support these power couples, and we're not against them. You still got to run. You still got to run. Listen to Ghostface. Flavor Flav is suing Chuck D, Public Enemy, and their manager, saying that they used his likeness and that he's not getting the appropriate payments for streaming services and this and that. Does that disappoint you?
It does disappoint me. And by the way, I love Chuck D like an uncle. Mm-hmm. And Public Enemy is not just a musical group. It's an institution. It's a movement from the lyrics to the consciousness, to the beats, to the sound, to the gear. And one of the things about being a fan of music, in particular groups, you tend to see over a period of time, unfortunately, they tend to fall out of favor, which is why now you see more cliques and crews and record labels actually recording together than actual groups, because the record label says, hey, we can pay you a lot more. Mm-hmm. Why don't you go out there and stand on the stage? Hey, it could be all about you and lights. So because of that level of the record label and now the progression of the finance and relationships, it's hard to keep people together and in concert for a prolonged period of time.
You're absolutely right, and this also reminds me that I'm definitely going to sue you at some point in my life. Finally, the Ball family has a docu-series, quote-unquote reality series, on Facebook. Are you going to watch it?
I'm not going to watch anything on Facebook.
I can't even log in. I don't have a Facebook account. You can't even log into yours. Don't lie.
I can't. I don't, and I won't.
Jalen, LaMelo Ball has a signature shoe. He put out a little trailer today. I believe it was produced by Slam Magazine. Shout out to everybody at Slam.
Shout out.
This signature shoe is interesting for a few reasons. There's a lot to unpack here. Number one, charging $395 for it. How do you feel about that price point?
I ain't mad at you.
Oh, I'm mad.
I ain't mad at you. I ain't. In a society where people are paying $500 for some Jenner makeup,
okay,
it's not about the price point. It's about if and what people are willing to pay for in commerce. That's how business transactions take place. If anything, if I'm Lonzo, I'm like, wait a minute, I just got drafted to the league.
I know.
This shoe should be half price of mine. That's all I'm saying.
If you're LaMelo, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm just saying, basically saying I'm almost as valuable as Lonzo. And if you're LiAngelo, you're like, wait, is it the reason I don't have a shoe is because I'm in the NCAA? Is that how it works? Or you guys just skip over me? Because it seems like everybody's skipping over me in the family. I hope, you know what? He's my favorite Ball brother. I want him to tear it up. I always root for the underdogs.
Nope.
I want him to tear it up.
Nope. T-Mac said it best. They got two in the possible.
And that's why I'm rooting for him, because he got called impossible by one of the best players in the game that went to the Hall of Fame. And you call him impossible every time his name comes up. I want him to be the best Ball brother. He's my favorite Ball. Come out with his shoes. He come out with some socks. I'll buy some socks. You know they would charge $100 for the socks, too. You know they would.
You talking about somebody that saw black socks become an institution and don't get a dime from it.
Not even a dime.
I am not mad.
Not even a dime. And then there's this. At the end of the video, it's him pulling away from the house in a black Lamborghini as his brother Lonzo pulls away in another luxury vehicle. It's like a truck. I don't speak cars. Is there something weird about a 16-year-old driving away in a black Lamborghini? There's something weird about that?
There is something weird about it. There's a lot Hollywood about it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of we're rich in your face about it. Mm-hmm. But the thing I want to point out, by the way, there's one more thing I got to bring up. There's a lot of we live in the suburbs and grew up in the suburbs about it.
Okay.
But I have to acknowledge this. It could be rented.
I know.
And
at
also,
least. Yeah.
You gotta look at things for face value. They're coming out with a television show. So you gotta build characters.
Exactly. It's not a coincidence that the shoes and the show came out on the same day. But
as
one
his
of the
birthday.
things,
correct.
Look, one of the things as a parent I'm never going to do is criticize another parent. I'm just going to say I would be concerned about a 16-year-old driver driving a Lamborghini. Those cars are powerful. They're hard to control. You know what I mean? I would be concerned. I drove a fancy, I think it was a Mercedes-Benz one time that had one of those powerful engines. I wanted to stop and just get out. I was like, you know what? I'm good. This is freaking me out. I can't control this vehicle. It's too powerful.
I don't do those.
What do you think about the eyebrow cuts though on him? He's got one little like 3 cuts in your eyebrow trying to wild out on each side.
Not rolling.
Conor McGregor had a very well worded Instagram post, sort of like a thank you, a whiskey toast to his former combatant, Floyd Mayweather. And there was this one line I found interesting. He says Floyd, quote, has some very strong tools he could bring into the MMA game for sure. Is this a way for him trying to drag Floyd into the octagon so he can finally win a fight?
Floyd is not getting in an octagon or a square circle to fight anyone.
He's going
to take his 50-0 record, and hopefully he takes all of the money that he made and he puts the Harriet Tubman 20s into commerce for me. So with that being said, Conor understands that he gained a lot of fans and a lot of respect by the way the fight transpired. So he's going to capitalize on his celebrity, and he's going to continue to not only perform in the MMA, but try to make as much money as possible and not look back.
Jalen Rose, not everything is worth discussing. So we filter out what is worth talking about and what is not with a segment called Keep It Moving. If we're going to discuss it, we will hit the brakes and do so. If not, they get the Method Man.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
Victor Oladipo
Hola, Oladipo.
has come out with an R&B song. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
All right. If Reggie is ready, he's going to play a clip right now. Get in the gym, not the studio.
We need to just make sure that whatever I'm hearing right now ain't in your head and heart when you take that court.
Yeah, we got a lot of production that you and Demonis Sabonis need to make up, okay? We got a lot of points from our average per game that we're looking for you to make up. It's a Donny Hathaway remake, though.
Shout out.
Next, Caroline Wozniacki is a little salty about Maria Sharapova. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving. I'm sorry about Maria Sharapova and her performance-enhancing use as well.
Next, the Indians owner has an update on Chief Wahoo. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
Here's the thing. You know I hate Chief Wahoo. Like, this is like a personal thing that I just cannot stand. It's inevitably going to go away, just like the Washington Redskins name. Sorry, the Washington football team's name. But what I don't like is his update is the timeline for eliminating Chief Wahoo has accelerated. I don't care about the acceleration of the timeline. I care about eliminating Chief Wahoo. It's as simple as that. Don't give me an update like that. Give me an update saying we are eliminating Chief Wahoo. Your thoughts?
Agreed. I'm rolling with you. Like, there are a couple of things that we see eye to eye on, and that's about the naming of both of those teams and how they will take place and get changed. It's only a matter of time.
Roger Goodell continues to beat the drum for shortening the preseason. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving. You're just going to elongate the regular season.
Justin Turner says the 4-game losing streak is adversity that the Dodgers need. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving. 4-game losing streak ain't adversity in baseball the way they've been winning.
The Pelicans are going to work out Josh Smith. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving. I like to see Jay Smooth back in the league. He's one of those players that I would love to break down a list of guys, 20% approximately, that were in the league last year that you don't realize that they're out of the league this year.
Tony Romo took a look.
Keep it moving.
Oh. Jonathan Simmons has some very interesting details of his escape from Hurricane Harvey. Would you like to hear him?
Must hit the brakes.
Jonathan Simmons was in the Houston area, and he was preparing for the hurricane by buying supplies and things of that nature, you know, just getting prepared. So he was holed up in his house with some friends, I believe some family. And if I remember this correctly, he had a neighboring home that needed to join his home, which doubled the amount of people approximately that were in his home, which sort of depleted their supplies to the point where he was like, we got to get out of here. You know, I believe I read this. He said he had one ramen noodle package for like a day and a half for himself because there's a bunch of children there and other people that need to eat. He reached out through a mutual friend to rapper Trey the Truth, who has a boat and has been picking people up. And Trey the Truth was involved, or either himself helped Jonathan Simmons escape from the home. And he had to ride a boat, walk through muddy water, and then ride on the back of a dumpster truck to make sure that he and his family were safe. Your thoughts, Mr. Rose?
I'm just sending well wishes, hopes, prayers to everyone in that region that's been affected directly or indirectly. It's a natural disaster. It's devastating so many people on so many different levels. And I just hope they are able to get the aid, the care, the support they're going to need, because this is going to be a long process of rebuilding.
Next, Dwayne Wade is on Twitter talking about why people don't like Carmelo Anthony. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
He said, quote, because they don't look as good in a hoodie as him. Your thoughts, Mr. Rose?
Well, really, fans, media, and players, a lot of times there's levels to how you're being judged. And for Melo, once you become one of the more popular players in the game, one of the highest paid players in the game, and you cross a threshold of being a perennial all-star, a multi-time Olympian, people now anticipate that you're going to now be a lead dog in helping carry your team past not only the first round, but to be a contending team. Just think about this for a second in the East. LeBron James has either disabled Dwayne Wade because he wouldn't play with him, or dismantled Carmelo Anthony, Derrick Rose, Paul George, players on other teams that could have been rivals. He's like Floyd. He's never had a rival. You look back at the articles. When Melo went to New York City and joined Amari Stoudemire, people just thought that they were going to be able to elevate what happened with that squad. And so as the face of that franchise, and it hasn't taken place to where he was even able to consistently lead them to the playoffs, that's what he's being judged by. And it goes by being judged by your peers. Who? LeBron James, 4 MVPs, 3 championships, led 2 franchises to multiple finals. Dwayne Wade, won a championship, won a finals MVP, won a couple of more championships. And so that's who he's being judged by, his peers.
One thing I love about this is I think that there's a lot of downside to social media and everybody's on their phone and we all know that, blah, 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 blah. One thing I love about what's happened in the last 5 years with social media is you get to see athletes be silly. You know, like you see KD just kind of being silly in the comments, and then you get to see Dwayne Wade responding about this, and then there's going back and forth about who won a spades game between him and Jimmy Butler. Hassan Whiteside is now one of my favorite players in the NBA because he's hilarious on Snapchat. Like, there is a part of this where there's a side benefit of, like, you actually get to see these guys not just scowling on the court, but being human beings off of it, and that makes me happy. Thanks, Reg. Keep it moving or hit the brakes. Giancarlo Stanton is in a very steamy music video featuring popular internet twerker Lexi Pantera. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
First of all, do you know who Lexi Pantera is? Don't lie.
I don't.
Well, I may have done some research for this topic because I knew it was going to come up on the radio show. So I did some research. She has a lot of internet videos that feature her moving her backside to the music very quickly and in rhythm. And she now wants to move on from that phase of her career into being a singer. So she came out with a song. It's about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and it features a topless Giancarlo Stanton doing nothing but lying down on his back in a bed while Lexi Pantera very sensually, quote-unquote, dances on top of him. What? Do you think this is a good career move for Stanton?
Is he married?
No. I don't believe so.
Does he have a girlfriend?
No. Why are you asking follow-up questions? You know I don't know these things.
If the answer is no to both of those questions, do what you like.
Well, from the looks in the video, he certainly seemed to like it.
Upside down, you're turning me. You're giving love instinctively. Round and round, you're turning me.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us voicemails.
Down.
If you leave us voicemails, we'll put them on the show. Let's listen to the first one.
Hey guys, it's Lexi from LA. I forgot to call yesterday on Women Crush Wednesday, but since you guys give the people what they want, thought I'd try again on Thursday. Also, since you guys give the people what they want, I get really excited to hear Jalen's power reactions. So can we have a segment called Power Thoughts where Jacoby doesn't tell Jalen he can't have them? Because I want to know how he felt about what happened. I'm not trying to give any spoilers, but with Tariq and Reina, all of that. Jalen, thoughts? Thanks, guys. Keep giving the people what they want.
First thing I want to say is spoiler alert. If you haven't caught up with Power, you might just want to turn the volume down on your radio. Don't change the channel. Just turn the volume down on your radio for like 30 seconds. Jalen Rose, Power thoughts.
Well, first and foremost, it's not a spoiler alert when it came on almost 10 days ago.
Okay, tell that to the people that are about to tweet us.
That's number one. Number two, I had to find out Tyreek's real name, his government name. I was so disappointed in him. In the final episode, the second from the final episode, his decision-making has continued to get so much worse each program that it led to him getting his sister killed. And he basically hid and watched it happen. And I'm not saying that he was going to be able to take out the gunman, who's also a police officer.
Oh, sounds scandalous.
That also is a crooked cop.
Sure sounds like it.
But I'm just saying, like, that stands out to me. Here's what else stands out to me.
Okay.
Seriously, Tasha?
Tosh.
Like, let me get this right.
Tosh.
Ghost finally beats his case. Now, by the way, I'm not forgiving Ghost because Angela's been his side chick the entire time. And while he was going home to his high-rise condo with an elevator, she's been going home to her one-bedroom apartment with a glass of wine, lonely and crying every other night.
Is Angela Lala? Oh.
No. Okay. So I'm not going to forgive Ghost, a married man, for having a side chick. But Angela looks way worse because, by the way, she was a cop. And he was a kingpin, which still is head-scratching to me that she has not said the words that I went to high school with Ghost. Like, nobody really has acknowledged that part of it. But with that being said, let me get this right, Tasha, as I get back to her. So she slept with Tyreek, who eventually got killed. Clearly she's married to Ghost. And then the dude that helped him get off of his case, help him beat his attorney. The next day they sleeping together. First off, hold up.
No, first off, hold up. Lexi from LA was like, can we get a minute of Jalen's Power thoughts? And now it's been like 4 minutes. I don't even get to just say anything about Game of Thrones on this show.
All right. This is the one thing I got to say, though. Her husband is a kingpin, the attorney that got him off. The next day, she was with him at a karaoke bar.
Can we listen to the next voicemail?
I'm like, seriously?
Can we listen to the next voicemail?
Lala slept with Tommy.
Can we listen to the next voicemail?
And then she got into her feelings. Tommy be disrespecting his mom.
Can we listen to the next voicemail, please?
Tommy's dad killed a guy for him in jail.
You're listening to the Power Podcast on ESPN Radio
right now.
The Jalen Rose soliloquy about Power Podcast.
No, this is what you get for years and years torturing me with movie reviews.
No, here's what happened is Reggie is part of the selection process for the voicemails. Reggie loves the show, so he puts this one first, and he knows it's going to take 4 minutes, and you're just going to keep going on and on about different plot lines in Power. At least you got these ones right.
Okay, I'll let you cook.
All right,
but I'm disappointed in Tyreek. If I see him in real life, I might pull out my belt and whip him.
Let's listen to the next voicemail. Thank you, Lexi.
Hey, Jalen, Jacoby, it's Frazier, long-time listener, first-time caller. Shout out, Reg. I know it's not Woman Crush Wednesday. I missed that. But have y'all seen Jimmy Butler out here with his new physique? Like, he's buff out here. And he got a little new dude. I think he's going to do business out there in Minnesota. What do you guys think? Also, Jacoby, I love the whole minivan idea. It's so spacious. I have a rental one right now because my car's in the shop. Best thing that ever happened to me. Shout out you guys. Keep doing what you do. Give the people what they want.
Frazier, I really appreciate the call. I really, really do. First of all, I read the entire internet every morning. Before you get out of bed, I've read everything on the internet, and I know exactly what she is referring to. She's referring to an Instagram post of Jimmy Butler where he just looks yoked. Like, he looks too in shape. Like, veins just like he looks like a cartoon character. And more importantly, Jalen, I know this is important to you, he's got braids now. He's going to be the MVP.
He does?
He's going to be the MVP. He's going to be the MVP. If Jimmy Butler plays for braids this year, he's going to be the MVP.
See, here's what doesn't get discussed enough. We know because of his greatness, the king has people follow and want advice and has been a trailblazer for the new era athlete to move from one franchise to another as an MVP to create a super team. But what doesn't get acknowledged enough is while people were following fads, Kawhi kept his braids.
Mm-hmm. He's always had them.
You know what else? Jacoby always says they look like they were how many weeks old?
No, they always look like they're about 6 days old. Like they never get older or newer than that. Always 6 days old.
And before you know it, Kendrick comes out with Super Fire. He's rocking them. They were the only two people I seen rocking them. Before I know it, I'm drinking Kawhi water as we speak.
As you should. As you should. High pH balance.
No doubt about it.
Gotta get that pH balance, whatever that is.
So Jimmy Butler's following the wave like Max B.
I love it. And also, Frazier, minivan is not an idea, it's a lifestyle. And I'm so glad that you're starting to convert to the lifestyle. And thirdly, Jalen Rose, are you aware that there was ever a television show named Frazier?
I saw it on The Guide a couple of times.
Great. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
What up, Jalen and Jacoby? This is Marvin from Detroit, not Marvin from Perth. Shout out to Marvin from Perth. Shout out to Reggie, even though he don't like Redman and Cameron. I got a quick question for both of y'all. It's got to do with TV. If you could play any character on either Game of Thrones or Power, which one would it be and why? Keep giving the people what they want. Keep giving them checks. And I've been a big fan since the Grantland days. Y'all, look, y'all be doing it, man. I appreciate y'all. All right, peace.
Thank you so much for the call, Marvin from Detroit. Couple things.
What up, though?
Couple things. Number one, I'm very concerned about Marvin from Perth. Remember, there was like a week there where he called every single day, and he just dropped off the face of the earth. He got taken in by the kangaroos, man. The kangaroos heard him. That he was starting talking about the kangaroo apocalypse, and they took him out. Marvin from Perth, give us a shout. We're worried about you. Number two, Reggie's very upset that you said he doesn't like Redman, so he made sure that we clarify that. And number three, if I could play any character on Game of Thrones, whew, I gotta go with Tyrion because he's my favorite character. Although he's a little more height challenged than I am.
I know you get in the character and you don't want to take how you see someone behave on screen literally. I would say Tommy from Ghost, but he so flagrantly disrespects his mom that I couldn't be that character. So my answer, no question, has to be Ghost. James St. Patrick.
Thank you so much for calling in. Marvin from Perth, give us a shout, man.
But don't sleep on Kanan and Slim.
We're worried about you, Marvin from Perth. For real, man. Give us a shout. We want to make sure that you're okay, not taken in by the kangaroos. Jalen, let's open up our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed and take questions from our audience because we... First question we have is from one of my favorites, Big Crown. Shout out to Big Crown. He says, if the Cavs win the chip this year, does LeBron stay? Especially with Cleveland having a chance to have the top pick in next year's draft.
I led the charge in national media of people talking about LeBron James was going to end up in purple and gold.
Okay.
But when I look at their roster, their number 2 overall pick is about to be on a reality show. Mm-hmm. They just got fined $500,000 for tampering.
Yep.
With Paul George.
Yep.
He may or may not leave OKC to join the squad.
You never know where
Paul
Paul
may or may not develop into the player we think he is.
Ingram may or may not develop into the player that everybody thinks he's going to be.
And for all of those have not been paying attention, LeBron James will not play on something that's not considered a super team.
Mm-hmm. And you look at Clarkson, and you look at Randall, look at Zubac. Like, look at this team. Like, this seems to be like a bunch of young players in LeBron James. That doesn't sound very attractive.
And when you get a chance, look at the Western Conference standings. Man, that's a lot tougher road. 1 through 8 to try to find a way to continue to advance and win championships in your first year or two with a new squad. So for me, looking at the Cavs and how they were able to parlay Kyrie Irving via trade and give them flexibility because Isaiah Thomas is 1 year on his contract, I think if I'm LeBron, being at home ain't the worst thing. And I would not be surprised, depending on the things I just described, if that continues to be the best option for him.
You know what? I'm starting to think that too. And we'll see how this season plays out. But if they beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals or whoever they play in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he's in the finals, and they make they win a couple against the Warriors, and he's saying, do I run this back or do I go to a whole new city with a whole new team and with a whole new roster? I don't know. We'll see. Next. This is from Ashley.
Shout out.
Who was y'all's favorite WWF wrestler growing up? Great question, Ashley.
So first and foremost, he wasn't my favorite wrestler. He wasn't my favorite wrestler, but he's my favorite media personality wrestler, Piper's Pit. I love that very much.
Roddy Piper?
Roddy Piper, no doubt.
Mine was Junkyard Dog.
He was from Detroit.
And George the Animal Steel. He used to eat the turnbuckle.
No, he was from Detroit.
Remember he used to eat the turnbuckle?
Well, I used to represent for him.
I love George the Animal Steel. He's crazy.
He represented Detroit, and while his character was crazy, I think he took it a lot farther than that word with some of his antics.
He used to have like a green tongue or something. He was weird.
And he's hairy.
He was weird. It was just like, how did you pitch that in a meeting? Like, imagine he's just like a normal dude. And he's like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a green tongue, and then I'm going to eat the turnbuckle during every match.
But just to give some game, like being a huge WWF fan, I remember Saturday Night Main Event, and a lot of standouts, obviously Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, the Killer Bees, the British Bulldogs, Randy Macho Man Savage,
the Bushwhackers,
Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful.
The Ultimate Warrior was one of my favorites because I'm like 4 years younger than you. Like the Ultimate Warrior was like the sweet spot for me. But let me say something about wrestling. Like I just never got bit by the bug. You know what I mean? Even as a kid, like I would watch, but I never got bit by the bug. However, that being said, as you like to say, if I turn it on now and something interesting is going on, it'll get me. Like, I'll watch until the commercial. Like, I still enjoy the art and I enjoy watching it. I just don't seek it out and, like, make it part of my life.
I always pay homage to trendsetters. So for the youngsters, I'm going to do this homework for you. When you see the success of the reality show generation, that started with Jerry Springer. Yep. The fight that you saw last Saturday with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, that started with WWF wrestling.
Yeah. Like the press conferences did have that kind of feel. Next, Anthony wants to know, we're all preparing for this. Do you prefer to have a party for your fantasy football draft or draft alone?
100% need to be drafted alone.
Me too. Me too. I don't want to get together because, like, here's low key that people don't talk about. Unless it's an auction draft, fantasy drafts are boring. Like, I need the TV on. I need to be watching something interesting, watching a game, watching a show that I like, and then when I hear that chime that it's my turn to pick, I pick real quick, and then I go back to my TV for another 10 minutes. Like, it's exciting because you're building this thing that you'll be invested in for 6 months, but it's just not that much fun of a procedure. It's like auction drafts. That's why I support auction drafts and all fantasy drafts.
I got a question for you.
Okay, sir.
Jalen and Jacoby has a fantasy draft. Did you get an invite?
I don't think so. Like, they're claiming I did. It's in my email. It's not on my calendar. I don't know what day it is. I'm hoping I'll get updated at some point. But I might be getting Kaepernicked. Let's be honest. I might be getting Kaepernicked based on my performance last year, where at the end of the season I stopped caring and don't set my roster. This is a good question from James. Is D. Lillard right for saying the truth? Quote, no one will admit MJ isn't the GOAT. He didn't say that exactly. I'm not sure that was a quote. But he said, even if someone is better than MJ, no one will sort of cop to it and admit it for nostalgia's sake.
Well, when you are the GOAT, that kind of acknowledges what Damian was talking about. Is somebody going to be able to come out and eclipse what he was been able to accomplish? I don't think so. No. So therefore, he will continue to be the GOAT. Yep. There are going to be some really outstanding performers. And in today's era, you just name the best players from this generation. You say, what can LeBron continue to accomplish, what's going to happen with KD, how these players continue to progress. But the work that MJ put in, I don't see that mantle being taken from him anytime soon.
Of course, Ping has a minivan question for me. If a minivan offered a soundproof partition between the front and back seats, how quickly would you make your way to the car lot? I mean, you know what? I'm just thinking about getting that custom built. With some sort of like indication that the sound is at to a certain level where I have to pay attention to it. Because, man, we went on a 3-hour drive to and from San Diego.
A 3-hour tour, 3-hour tour.
Everyone lost their minds. The kids lost their mind. My wife lost her mind. I lost my mind. I'm never driving more than 2 hours until these kids get older. David has a good question.
Shout out.
What's the best mac and cheese brand?
Homemade.
Oh, that's okay. I'm in between Kraft and Annie's, to be honest with you. I was Kraft growing up, but Annie's is solid. Annie's is a very solid mac and cheese. Next we have, it's from our man Goran. Soft move or boss move, lying to your boss about why you arrived late to a meeting.
Soft move.
Really?
Can't play those games.
One thing I've tried to eradicate from my life, and no one will ever truly eradicate this from their life, is I've just tried to eradicate lying from my life. A lot of people just think about your day and think about the things that come out of your mouth, and sometimes you fill your day with some meaningless little tiny white lies, about why you're late or where you are if you're on the phone, and just reasons for things to make you look better. There's no reason for that. Try to get that out of your life as much as you can.
That's called maturity.
Finally, Jalen Rose.
Hey, hold on. Hit the brakes.
Why I got to hit the brakes?
First off, if you at work and y'all got a meeting, you need to be on time.
You got to be on time. Yeah. Time management is very important. Sometimes you got legitimate reasons or whatever, but time management is very important. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast.
Thank you.
We appreciate you subscribing to our podcast.
Thank you.
Make sure that you tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast, and also subscribe to the Nickel Package Podcast. It is a new football podcast with Field Yates on Monday, David Jacoby and Kean Fahy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Bill Barnwell, Thursday, Mina Kimes and Dominique Foxworth, Friday, Mike Golick Jr., and most importantly, no Jalen Rose.
Hold on, hit the brakes. No, wait, hit the brakes. Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Whoa, wait.
Yes, sir. If you're going to say anything disparaging about this brand new, exciting podcast project, then we will clearly edit it out.
I am not.
Okay, good.
But, so we've become the prime real estate to get other people to announce their projects on our show?
No, I'm doing that on my own volition, Jalen Rose. I am part of this project. This is important to me. And I thought that perhaps, maybe at the end of the podcast, we could discuss it for 30 seconds and encourage our fans to subscribe to the Nickel Package Podcast.
And I have to ask you one more question.
Have I gone to jrla.gesture.com and bid
of course you did.
on auction items?
No, here's what I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Who came up with the name Nickel?
There's a lot of names on the board. A lot of names on the board. And like most things, it's been a team movement.
So can I ask a question of the Nickel family of the worldwide leader? That's a failed drug test.
You're the best. Don't forget, comment on iTunes, rate us in Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow.